Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Welcome back, all you citizens of the world. It's live from the Heartland for the week of October 12th in the year 2024. We only have 30 some odd days left until the big election. We've been bringing a lot of people on talking about the election. We've had Don Rose, one of our regular commentators and someone with a lot of insight and keen observing skills. And I've got him back today, and I'm glad you've come on, Don. How are you today?
Pretty good. Really good. I was feeling particularly good reading the front page of the New York Times, where their poll, which lagged some other polls in this point, finally sees Harris pulling ahead, still within the margin of error, but by 3 points, which is something that other polls have showed. Some have showed more. But the Times very respected poll of, well more than 3,000, I think it's 3,800 people, finally shows her pulling ahead, and very importantly, pulling ahead, showing her as an agent of change, which is a positive item in elections generally, and certainly in this one. Up to now, Trump had been looked upon as the agent of change, and she keeps pulling up, which suggests that people are getting to know her and viewing her more positively. So this, I as I think I've said before here, I don't take full stock in any single poll or any couple of polls, but rather look for the direction. And this is a significant shift in direction in one highly respected poll. So it's a cause. It's a cause for if not elation, at least pushing us in the right direction.
As you say, Harris is up 3 points over the other guy, and that's a good thing. Let me ask you about, it'd be great to have the presidency, but it would be also great if we had the House and the Senate. And, there's a lot of positive stuff about what's going on in both places. But on the other hand, we had, I actually saw it today in the Washington Post, and today being a few days actually it's the 9th of October when we're recording this, and they have a headline, Congress may be headed for an election day double flip. Let's talk about the House and the Senate, whichever you want to go first on. Tell us what you think.
Well, I have not been following each House race closely. I am generally of the view that the House is going to flip, that we are going to, the Democrats are going to take the House. I can't say it's inevitable, but certainly if the leadership, the presidency goes in our direction, I think it's almost a certainty that it'll take the House with it. Although there are little pockets of places that we may not be thinking about. And as you know, the old saying, all politics is local. So there can be many House seats that may give us a surprise. But so I can't give you the count the way many House followers have. I have followed the Senate more closely. And I am cautiously optimistic about holding the Senate. I know this is a tough call, but I think that John Tester has been appears to be under threat there. If he loses, that would he's one of the two most vulnerable because his state goes so heavily Republican, and Trump will carry it well. I still think he's got a chance to win. He always manages to pull things out, as does Sherrod Brown, who I think is sitting in a much better place, even though Ohio will go substantially Republican. Brown is likely to hold on as he has in the past. If I had to worry about Sherrod Brown, I'd be worried about the whole
deal.
whole deal. So there's Tester, but we also have some possibilities going around the country. Cruz is under serious threat. He's shown one. There's been a poll, I think, that shows him slightly behind for the first time ever that I know of. Florida has an interesting possibility, and I think it's possible that we could break even if Tester loses. We could pick up another one, replacing him, and possibly even pick up two. Now that's a highly optimistic call to make. I'm not ready to write it yet, but I'm leaning in that direction. So I am less worried about the Senate than some other observers are. Maybe it's just wanting a happy gut, but I still think that the direction of the leadership, is what counts the most for this.
Well, you've come out, with some hope for not only Sherrod Brown but for Jon Tester. And I like those. The one other thing that we're seeing also is a challenge to Tammy Baldwin. Some headline I saw, Eric Hoyte, or however you spell Hovde, campaign ramps up efforts to the tied Democrat to funding for LGBTQ care for the youth. And someone said it was possibly a toss-up. I doubt it. Any take on Tammy Baldwin today?
Well, I've been optimistic about her all the way. So I don't know. We don't see here. We don't see the commercials that are being played in those other states. They're right. Just Illinois is getting some, but we're considered a blue state, and we're not. They don't have to spend a lot of money in Illinois because we have a good, strong Democratic Party. Which is not the best Democratic Party in the country. The way Wisconsin, I think, has the best state leadership among the Democrats with Ben Wickler. If we had 6 Ben Wicklers, we'd around the country. I think we could be assured of constant victory. Anyway, I can't speak to some erosion that's going on with her, but I have long felt she's not really very vulnerable there. And from the time she was first elected, an unlikely first election, where she was a big breakthrough by an openly gay woman.
Yeah. Well, let's jump around a little bit. And you'd already talked about Ted Cruz, who, hid in a closet during the January 6th invasion by the right wing. And he later took off during terrible weather to join and enjoy himself in warmer climes. And he is really being challenged by Representative Colin Allred, who was a pro football player, a lawyer. He became a congressman, which he is now. And I know Beto O'Rourke, who has been a guest on this show, who just barely lost to Cruz last time, has been full tilt working for him. And the other one that's interesting, there's 2 more that I'm going to bring up. We got Rick Scott in Florida, is really a terrible guy, and he is being challenged by Democratic Rep Debbie Macarsel. That's Mucarsel, Mucarsel-Powell. And then we got a kind of a long shot now. We have an independent labor candidate, union leader in Nebraska, challenging Senator Deb Fischer.
And doing well.
Yeah. So those three, those are some good shots. All three of them, I imagine.
Yeah, and as I say, I think any one of them would be the compensation for losing Tester if we lose Tester, and would be the eliminate the need for a vice president's vote if we picked up an extra vote or two there. So I'm as cautiously optimistic about the Senate as I am right now about the presidency. As I say, cautiously, or perhaps I might say nervously optimistic. Now, what does concern me, which I wrote about this week, is that however well some of these campaigns are doing, external forces out of our control represent a potential danger. And I think particularly of the Middle East situation.
Yeah.
The one piece of bad news that came in the last week or so is that in at least one poll, we've fallen behind in Michigan, and that seems to be due to the pro-Palestinian voters and the Arab population there. Middle Eastern population, Islamic population, whatever you want to call it, not wanting to vote for Harris, which is understandable in one way because they feel they've been pretty well ignored by the White House. Yet, on the other hand, it's even more suicidal for them to want to see Trump in. And if there's this contradiction there. Now,
well, who went up there the other day was Jill Stein, and, who could play a spoiler role. We have our friend Paul Draus, who teaches at the University of Michigan, Dearborn. He's been on the show. He's coming on in another week or so, well, 2 weeks, I think, to talk about Dearborn, where he lives and is observant. But it really, I've said earlier on this show that I really doubt that the Palestinians and the Arab community are pretty smart politically in a lot of ways, and a little bit surprised that they would talk about not supporting Biden. But that raises the whole question for all of us about having to move to the center, kind of, and we're supporting these policies and these candidates that really fly in the face of some of the things we believe and think ought to be on the table. And I was going to ask you about that. Here we are rooting for Harris, and I clearly vote for the Democrats over Republicans. And it gives you, with Democrats in power, it gives us time to maneuver, to work with people, to bring pressure from the streets, et cetera. If the Republicans are in, it's a whole different story. I'm starting to ramble, but you know where I'm going.
Yeah. Well, it's, Biden turned out to be a far more progressive president than he was a candidate.
But he didn't get credit yet on it.
It hasn't helped him. Part of that is he's always been a bad communicator. And, he's really been, when we look at it, a bad candidate. He was rejected, in effect, 3 times in a row in his runs for the presidency. And it took a lot of manipulation by the entire party to make him the presidential candidate in 2020 because they were so desperate to stop Bernie. Well, that's an old story. So Biden, the communicator, beyond a certain kind of base that likes some of this cornball stories that he tells, is been kind of an iffy communicator. Nobody ever got excited about him. People are excited about Kamala, interestingly enough. Or they talk about a real flip in public approval. So I'm going in that direction. But now she has had a couple of opportunities to help the situation, and she has not yet taken them. The other day, she was asked how she would differentiate herself from anything that Biden did. She had the opportunity to say something a little stronger about Netanyahu, which I don't think would have lost her any votes on the other side. And she in effect says, no, I sort of go along with everything. Now, that was a rare political mistake, I believe. It was her opportunity to at least begin some of the dialogue that might help her. Now, it's also quite possible. I have to say I do not have any great personal insight or affinity for the behavior or the views of some of the pro-Palestinians. I'm a Zionist in that I believe Israel has a right to exist. I'm a sharp critic of Israel, as you've seen through the years, and certainly of its present leadership, and think some changes have to be made. Nonetheless, I'm continue to be baffled by this near suicidal behavior or threats. It's also possible, quite possible, that some of the people who are using the Palestinian issue as a threat to the Democratic Party or a threat to Biden and Harris may, in the long run, come back, hold their noses and vote for her. But the behavior of Israel right now, how is it going to respond to the recent attack by Iran? Is it going to broaden the war enough so that we will ultimately be brought into it, which is a distinct possibility? And there goes everything that's going on in the campaign because of decisions that Netanyahu makes. Now, this is a very, very serious issue, and unless we can are able to in some respects sever ourselves or not join when we are expected to join, it's very frustrating. So say no matter how well we're campaigning, what positions we might wind up taking, the direction of the polling and so on, and then Netanyahu decides that he needs to broaden the war in order to stay in office. He's getting a little more popularity now with the success thus far of his war against Hezbollah.
Well, we know, I'm going to jump in. We know that Trump has been talking to Netanyahu. And here's a couple of things that I had down for talking points. House Republicans assail university head for negotiated end to Gaza protests. It's an older article, but it was about Northwestern president being a lightning rod for Republican-led committee hearings. Israel's war on Gaza is like 1 year old today when we're recording, and Biden administration is he seeking de-escalation or driving the Middle East war? As Washington calls for a regional ceasefire, it continues to provide political and military support for Israel. In today's New Washington Post, in an article by a guy named Perry Backham, I think, it says, "Don't believe the Netanyahu bashing. The U.S. basically agrees with him." Any comments on any of that?
Well, there is some veracity to that. Consider the fact that Biden has ordered, I think it's 1,000, a substantial number of new troops to go down there, along with the materiel, suggesting that they are about to join or want to be ready to join at a moment's notice. Now, this is kind of scary. We haven't seen yet from either Harris or Biden any suggestion of a significant break with Netanyahu. So now, we get reports that behind the scenes, Biden cusses him out and hates the position he's being put into. But on the public end of it, as somebody wrote recently, Netanyahu's been running rings around Biden, making him look irrelevant and weak. Now that can lapse over into Harris, because we're not sure how much these recent events, the anniversary of the attack by Hamas, on the 7th earlier this week, 1-year anniversary. We don't know how those have played into this recent polling, which we find a positive saying, and how where the American public is. And somebody wrote today that the American public, only 40% of the American public supports the Palestinian position in one way or another.
That's climbing, clearly, I think.
Yeah.
I had a conversation last Friday. I was at David Orr's 80th birthday party. And for those who don't know, David Orr was the Cook County clerk for many years. He was the mayor after Hal Washington died. And I talked to Jan Schakowsky, my congresswoman, and a very progressive woman who used to be pretty pro-Israel. And then at some point, even with Palestinian demonstrators coming on the scene wherever she was, she's very good in talking to them. And she's going to come on the show soon. But what we talked about was the danger of this situation for the future in Gaza, in the Middle East, and, the West Bank, through, the Palestinian world. You've got people who for the next 2, 3, 4 generations are going to be PO'd about this and in conflict with Israel unless something drastically happens. Here in our own situation, we root for the broad umbrella Democrats in a time of elections, but there's an awful lot of young people who are not going to really want to be with us because they're more pro-Palestine. And I think that, this has real implications, not only on a world level, but also in our domestic politics and people's choice of political party.
Well, that's very true. And as I say, earlier, the potential defections in Michigan, which is a very necessary state for us, are very concerning. And it's over that issue. And we know that the mistakes that are being made in Gaza with Hamas are just, we're not anywhere near defeating the concept of Hamas. They used to, our side used to say you can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. You can't kill our behavior, not our behavior there, but Israel's behavior in Gaza is creating a situation, as you mentioned, of new generations of, if it's not going to be Hamas, it'll still be the belief in Hamas that Israel must be defeated.
We're running out of time. I want to thank you for coming on, and whether we have you back on before the election again or shortly after, we'll see you soon. And thank you very much.